I guess we should start the meeting. I think we're not going to lock the, we're not going to lock it, but I am going to mute everybody so that if you want to speak, then just unmute yourself. I mean, it's an open, I mean, we're going to do, we did a half-hour social, and now we're going to do, Dewey's going to do some opening remarks, and then I'm going to introduce Gordy, and Gordy's going to do a talk, and then Dewey's going to, we have a video from Dewey, and then I'm going to do a talk, and that's sort of the agenda today. And we should have a bit of time for some question and answer. So without, I'm just going to mute everybody. So Dewey, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, well, I believe I'm.
So just unmute yourself. There you go. Just unmute yourself, Dewey. Dewey, you got to unmute yourself.
Okay,
there you go.
I've done this. It keeps going back. Anyway, good morning, everyone. This is Dwayne Close. I'm Dewey, of course, Vice President of Silvercom Computer and Technology Club. And I'm filling in today for our president, Carol Folker, who wasn't able to be here due to an unfortunate situation. I think most of you know that Mike and Carol and her husband, Mike, are longtime members of our club, like 20 years. And they are residents, full-time residents of Arizona, but they spend their winters in Wisconsin. And about a month ago, they were on their way back to Arizona, and they made a phone call to whomever takes care of their place. And the person had just learned that their place had become, a pipe broke and was flooded. It was just a terrible situation. So the guy, of course, moved everything around to dry things out. And when Carol and Mike arrived, they were not able to stay there. They spent nearly a month at a motel in Chandler. And I think just in the last day or so, they're getting back in. So Carol and Mike both are very busy putting things away. So that would explain our President Carol's absence for today. Well, anyway, this whole pandemic situation is kind of getting us down a little bit. And I think we need to have a few laughs. And so I've got it's kind of a top 10 list of coronavirus things, and we'll see if you can find any humor in it. Number one, why do they call it the novel coronavirus? Well, it's a long story. Number two, you know what they're saying about 2020? It went viral faster than anybody thought it would. Number three, what's the best way to avoid touching your face? Just keep a glass of wine in each hand. Number four, what's the difference between COVID-19 and Romeo and Juliet? Well, one's a coronavirus and the other is a Verona crisis. That's a good one. Number five, nail salons, hair salons, waxing centers, and tanning places are closed. It's going to really get ugly out there. Number six, grocery stores in France look like tornadoes hit them. All that's left is debris. Get that? Anyway, number seven, I'll tell you a coronavirus joke now, but you'll have to wait 14 days to see if you got it. Okay, another one. Number eight, so many coronavirus jokes out there. It's kind of a pandemic, I think. Number nine, did you hear the joke about the germ? Well, never mind. I didn't want to spread it around. And finally, number 10, if COVID-19 comes to an end by this coming summer, do I buy new shorts or do I just cut off my pajamas? Okay, well, anyway, that's it for the coronavirus jokes today. Going on, our SCTC board has decided that last season's Computer and Technology Club members may consider that their membership is being carried forward through this season without payment of dues until such time when we can once again have in-person live Monday morning meetings. In the same manner, we are likewise inviting both old and new Silver Ridge residents who aren't members to join our club without payment of dues. Our board has held several meetings. We had one last Thursday, and they'd like you to know that in the coming year, we do have roughly about $500 of ongoing and fixed club expenses, which involve things like the annual fee for our website and the payment for the license to hold Zoom meetings and things like that. Fortunately, our club does have sufficient funds on hand to take care of these expenses as necessary. For information, President Carroll is pleased to report that she's received offers from several of our last year's members to voluntarily pay the $10 dues or donate funds to our club. Now, it's not the intent really to make members feel obligated to cover our expenses. We've forgiven the dues, but for those who might like to do so anyway, you'll be receiving an email with details of our club's P.O. box at Silveridge for a place to send any funds that you might like. Since our treasurer, John Factor, is still back home in Manitoba, President Carol Fulker has accepted the responsibility to deposit such funds into our club's local Wells Fargo account. Well, I'll now turn the meeting back over to Ron.
Thank you, Dewey. At this time, I'd like to introduce two guests we have at the club today. The first guest is Mike Smith. Mike, can you give us a wave there, your hand? Mike Smith is the APCU area coordinator or district person for APCUG, and we fall within his group. So thank you, Mike, for coming and showing the interest in the club and so on and so forth. I know Mike's going to do a good job at this, so that's great. And the other guest we have today is Bob G. Thank you for coming along and keeping us safe. He's our security expert on Tech for Senior. Since we got Bob on board, we have never had a Zoom bomber yet, right? So that's good. He keeps us safe. So thank you for coming. If you do have any guests you want to come to the club meeting, please just have them come along. Everyone should have this, and maybe you could pass this information along to the to everyone at Silveridge. I mean, you have the meeting ID for our club meeting, and it will never change. And we will have two meetings a month. One is on the first Tuesday and then the third Tuesday of each month through November to March, maybe even to April. We'll see what everybody wants to do. So if you're interested, you can have guests come. There is no membership, there's fees this year, so anyone can come along and have a listen and enjoy our meetings. All right, I wanted to tell you a personal story. I'm going to introduce Gordy in just a minute, but you know me, I like to blab along. I have to tell you of a very interesting thing that happened to me last night. I'm just going to share my screen here. So here's the scenario last night. It was 5:30 in the evening, and I'm doing a presentation to the Tucson Computer Club. It's dark out here. I mean, the weather's terrible, and all the usual things are happening. Right in the middle of the presentation, boom, the power goes out at our place, right? Now, we don't really get power outages very much because two reasons. All our cables are underground, and also we live close to the old hospital, so that there's a lot of redundancy in the power system. Anyway, everything was out. And when the street lights were out, everything was out, and it was dark in the house and it was dark outside. So I go upstairs and I sort of find Gail, we get some flashlights out, and we turn the fireplace on in the front room and sort of try to keep warm because it's really cold outside. All of a sudden it's got really cold. So about 6:30 and still no power, I'm getting hungry. So I go out to start the Blackstone grill, which is a natural gas, and start to fire it up. And I'm going to cook dinner there. And I get the dinner on. And just as I'm doing that, then the lights start to come back on. And as I'm looking out, and I see why it's so dark, because it's snowing like heck. It's a lot of snow coming down, right? And it's cold. You can see there's ice on the deck and everything. So anyway, that was cool enough. Anyway, what happened then is while I'm sort of making dinner on the Blackstone, there's thunder and lightning. And, we rarely get thunder and lightning here, but and you could see the lightning coming through the bright lights coming through the snow. If you can imagine looking out, seeing everything snowing and hearing thunder and lightning and see the lightning through the snow. And it was really spectacular and weird, right? And it was so cold. And then overnight, it warmed up. It's 55 degrees here today, and it's blowing a stinking southeaster. So I thought, what is going on? So if you look at my screen, we got weather bombed yesterday. And this is actually, if you look at it, this is actually a meteorological event that only occurs 1 in 10 years. And it's combined by periods of high winds, thunder and lightning, an extremely high tide. It's a king tide today, so the tide's really, really high. And this all coincides once in 10 years. And that's what happened yesterday here. We got not Zoom bombed, but we got weather bombed. I want to go to Mesa. Anyway, I thought I would just tell you that. So that's our, that was what happened. And it is a stinking miserable day out there today. So I am so envious of you guys down in Mesa. That's really, really, really nice. All right, so let me introduce, I don't have to introduce Gordy, but I did want to talk, I did ask Gordy to talk about this new Apple MacBook Air, because of this is quite a significant development. Let me just give you a bit of a history about, I want to talk about Microsoft for a few minutes and what's happening. You all know that Microsoft is a huge company. Most of you probably don't know how big it is, but it is really, really big. And you probably all know that they got their start with Bill Gates and Windows, right? So and that's sort of how they started, and then they grew. What you don't know, or what you probably don't appreciate, is how Microsoft made all their money, and they didn't make it through Windows. What Microsoft did is they started to grow as a company. They bought companies. They took all the money they made and invested it back. In fact, there was a joke many years ago that they didn't have any competition because they just bought all the companies. They bought companies, they bought patents, and everything like that. And that is one of the reasons why they're so successful and make so much money, is because of this enormous amount of wealth they have, because they own most of all the patents. And you will see that every so often Microsoft sues like Samsung or Apple or something like that. And you say, oh, come on, why are these guys doing this? This is just making money for the lawyers. But really what it is they're arguing over patent litigation. And that's why it's coming up like this. Now, so they make a lot of money on that. And then the second thing they make even more money on is Azure, which is their web-based services now. Microsoft's making a ton of money on their web-based services. And only a small part of Microsoft's services are on Windows. In fact, that's a diminishing return. It's a small part. And in fact, each year, fewer people use Windows PC. And that's for sure a trend that has occurred over the past 5 years. There's fewer and fewer people using Windows. Now, in addition to that, and there's two reasons for that. Number one, there's a dissatisfaction with Windows, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And two, people are doing it on mobile devices. And so, we talked about this earlier, is Microsoft has these 2 feature updates that occur each year. And we've talked about the 2004 version and the new one. And these updates, nobody likes them. They don't really add any function to it. And it's a pain in the butt, and it usually crashes a lot of computers. So people are really unhappy about this. Now, on the flip side of this, Chromebook sales have gone crazy, right? People are flocking into Chromebooks like crazy. But look at Apple. Apple, if you look at the actual user base of the Apple PC or the Apple Mac user group, it stays at about 14% per year. And that's been like that for years and years and years. There's a steady group of people. Now, I'm not talking about the iPad or the iPhone users, but there's a steady group of MacBook users, and that's about 14% of the market. Now, a lot of the problem with that is Apple really hasn't spent a lot of, they've upgraded the iPhone and the watches and all the other stuff they make, but really they need to put some more value in some of their PC stuff. And that's what they've done. And that's what Gordy's going to talk about. And why this is so significant now is because there's such a lot of unsatisfaction with the Windows side of things. I think this is going to be an enormous, when Gordy tells you about this machine, this is a really good machine. It's reasonably priced. And I think this is going to add a huge opportunity for Apple. And I expect to see that 14% will probably grow pretty rapidly with this. So pay attention to what Gordy has to say, because this is a very interesting product. There you go. Is that a good intro for you, Gord?
Oh, that was really good. I got a lot of living up to do to follow that.
Good.
All right, I'll share my screen.
Go ahead.
It says advanced share options only host.
No, you should just be able to share. Just share it. You're a co-host.
All right, let me try it again.
Should just be a share screen at the bottom. It's a little green button. There you go.
Okay. Okay, as Ron was saying, I'm going to be talking today about the recently announced Apple Mac computer line. If you were here 2 weeks ago, I was covering the new Apple iPhone, the iPad, and the Apple Watch. Apple announced the Mac line of computers 2-3 weeks after it announced the other products. So I'm going to cover that today, the Mac Pro line. So here are the Apple's new products: the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. So looking first at the lineup, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Mini. Pictures of the 3 different devices, 3 different computers. The MacBook Air starting at $999, the Pro at $1299, and then the MacBook Mini at $699. So as you can see, the first 2 here are laptops. The MacBook Mini, you would have to have your own monitor, keyboard, and so forth. All right, so getting in a little more detail about the MacBook Air. Now there are 2 MacBook Airs in the 2020 version here. So the MacBook Air M1, and I'll be getting into a discussion towards the end of this presentation about that M1 chip. It's pretty amazing. Then there's the MacBook Air with the Retina display for 2020. And then I'm comparing it to the MacBook Air of 2017, give you an idea of what has changed in the last 2-3 years. So the MacBook Airs, the 2020 version, they both have Touch ID. So that was not there back in 2017. For the display, they're all using a 13.3-inch display. As mentioned, the MacBook Air has the M1 chip. However, there is a MacBook Air 2020 that has a 1.2 gigahertz quad core, in other words, 4-core Intel i7 processor. And if you go back to 2017, it was a 2.2 gigahertz 2-core Intel processor. For storage on the MacBook Air, the M1 has 2 terabytes, as does the other Air. And the MacBook Air from 2017 had a half a terabyte or 512 gig. The weight, 2.8 pounds now for the Air computers, the current ones, where it was 3 pounds in 2017. So they are getting lighter. Moving now on to the MacBook Pro. So I'm covering the MacBook Pro, the M1, the MacBook Pro, just the 2020 version, which has the Intel processor, and then back to the MacBook Pro from 2016. So again, here on the Pro line, you see a touch bar and touch ID for the MacBook Pro, the 2020 version. That did not exist on the 2016 version. The display is the same for all three of them. As already mentioned, the M1 chip for the Air, the MacBook Pro is the M1 chip. The MacBook Pro, the middle one here, has the quad-core Intel i7 processor. And before that, in 2016, it was also an Intel processor. Okay, 2 terabytes of storage. For the 2020 version, it was 1 terabyte in 2016. And the weight for all three of them is approximately the same, around 3 pounds. Now for the MacBook Mini, again, the 2020 version, comparing it to 2018 and back in 2014. So the 2020 version with the M1 chip and 2 terabytes of storage. In 2018, by the way, the price on it was $1,099 at that time, compared to starting at $699 for the new version. So the 2018 had the 3.2 gigahertz 6-core Intel processor, 2 terabytes of storage. And then the Mini from 2014 was a 3 gigahertz dual-core Intel processor, also with 2 terabytes of storage. Some other features here about the Mac computer line, the new ones for 2020, up to 16 gigabytes of memory, up to 2 terabytes of solid state drive. I don't have a Mac computer, but I tell you, after looking into this, I'm very tempted to get one. But I have an HP 2-year-old Windows computer, and it has a solid state drive along with a hard drive. And that thing is so much faster. And I think a lot of it is because of that solid state drive. It has Touch ID, up to 20 hours of battery life. It's 2.8 times faster central processing unit than the previous versions. It's 5 times faster in graphics, which is a pretty important feature for gamers. So if this is a gift, for example, for your kids or your grandchildren who maybe are gamers, this will be a very good product for them. The operating system is the Mac OS Big Sur. The machine learning or artificial intelligence is up to 11 times faster. And it does have that M1 chip. A few more specs related to these products. The MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and there is a 16-inch MacBook Pro also. Notice the price starting at $23.99 for the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So I've covered the displays. I've covered the hours of uptime. Notice though here on the MacBook Air, 18 hours of battery life. On the Intel version of it, it would be about 9.5 hours. And on the MacBook Pro, 20 hours of battery life for the Apple M1 chip, where it was a little over 10 hours for the Intel, if you get the Intel processor. And on the 16-inch Pro, about 11 hours of battery life with that Intel processor. So I've kind of covered these, the CPU and the number of cores, the same thing with the graphics. On the storage for the MacBook Air, it goes from 256 gig to 2 terabyte. On the 13-inch MacBook Pro, it's 256 gigabyte to 4 terabyte. And on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, 512 gigabytes of storage up to 8 terabytes. And for memory, the Air at 8 gig or 16 gig of memory. On the Pro, 8, 16, and 32 gig options. And on the 16-inch, it's 16 gig, 32 gig, and 64 gigabyte of memory. And for the number of ports on the Air, there are 2 ports. For the MacBook Pro, it's 2 ports if it's the M1 version, or 4 ports for the Intel version. And on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, there are 4 ports. So a little more information about the Mac computers. 50% of the buyers are new to the Mac computers. So it continues to increase in market share. The Mac OS, the Big Sur operating system, gives better performance and longer battery life. It does maintain compatibility with the Intel chip. So if you get one with the M1 chip, it is compatible. The software, the apps, the programs are compatible with what you are running on Intel chips now. And you can run your iPhone and iPad apps on your Mac computers. And this was an interesting point they brought up when I was watching the Apple event, the announcement. It says the MacBook Pro and Mini have a fan for cooling, whereas the Mac Air does not. So it really gets to how efficient these computers have become, and they're not generating that much heat. Got a couple of websites here you can go to if you want to compare the different Mac computers. And this website is the Apple event that was streamed. It was about a week ago. It's about 45 minutes long. And the last thing I have here is about this M1 chip. It's really amazing technology, and I am not that technical, but I find this quite impressive. This chip contains 5 nanometer, which is billionths of a meter technology. Now I went and did a quick Google search, and I was looking at, well, where's Intel at in their technology? I mean, Intel's a great company. Intel is working on 7 nanometer technology right now, and they're about 2 years away from releasing it. So here's Apple at 5 nanometer technology, even smaller than what Intel is planning to offer in 2 years. So on this chip, it's packed 16 billion transistors, 4 high-performance central processing units, 4 efficiency cores, 8 graphic processor units, a neural engine, which is the artificial intelligence, and the DRAM, the memory. It has the best CPU performance per watt, and it's moving away from Intel processors. Apple is on their computers, their Mac computers, they are moving away from the Intel processors. So here on the left, I pasted a picture, just in general shows the layout of a chip, the CPU. I'm not sure what fabric means, but here are the graphic processor units. Here's the memory here and here, the neural engine, the cache for buffering data. And then here is the actual picture of this M1 chip. So it is very integrated. I'm thinking here on the right side is probably the DRAM, the memory. And in here are the 16 billion transistors and processors. And that's my presentation.
Thanks, Gordy. Gordy, I have a question for you. If you, with the MacBook Mini, can you plug any monitor into the MacBook Mini, or does it have to be a Mac monitor?
You know, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not a Mac user, but I would think it would be compatible with any monitor. I'll have to check.
But you know, that is such a good deal. I mean, a lot of people don't need laptops, right? And you could, like, I just bought a 34-inch monitor at Costco for $239. And particularly for seniors, you want a big monitor. You don't want a little monitor. So for 800, what was it, $799 for the mini?
$699 start.
So for $700, you could get an M1 chip. And if you had a monitor, existing monitor and keyboard, you could plug that in. And, you know, so all of a sudden you've got a really nice system that's got an M1 chip on it. I think this is an unbelievable deal. I think this is a really, really good, particularly for people who have, if you own an iPhone and maybe you've got an older iPad and you're looking at making buying a computer, you stay within the Apple ecosystem. You know, this is a really good device.
Yeah, they're running the iPhone apps, the iPad apps on a Mac computer now.
Yeah, it's all integrated. So I think this is a big deal. And I think that it's going to be a big deal for Apple. But anyway, maybe you could follow up on that for our next talk and find out if we can plug. It'd be really, now if you have to buy a $3,000 Apple monitor to plug into an M1 to plug into the mini, that's not going to be such a great deal. But if you could, Bob, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I just did a little search online and I see an LG monitor, 27-inch, and this one is at Staples for $150.
But can you plug that into the?
Yeah, that is for monitor for a Mac Mini.
Oh, really? There you go. Okay, great. So that is a stinking good deal, you guys. This is you know, really great. Anyway, let's get on with it because Dewey is going to. Dewey did an excellent show on a product called Print Friendly, and I'm going to play his video for him. Dewey, did you have anything you want to say before I play your video?
Yes, I wanted to mention that, first of all, this was done at Tech for Seniors a couple of weeks ago. And the previous week, I had done an earlier one on printfriendly.com when I was unaware that there was a marvelous extension that means it makes accessing the program much easier. I didn't know about it. And today's video is about that. So in other words, I introduced printfriendly.com, which is a way to make web pages very readable. And having this extension, which you will learn about today, is really awesome. I'm using it almost every day, I'm finding. Well, go ahead and run the video.
All right, I'll do it. And this was the November 2nd one you wanted me to play.
Correct.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. It's Dewey's update for November 2nd, 2020. Today's topic, printfriendly.com. If you were here last week, you'll say, sounds familiar. Well, I spoke last Monday on the topic of using a website called printfriendly.com to strip away ads and unwanted content from web pages that I'd like to save, edit, and or print, and showed the steps I've been using to create new printer-friendly documents. I was planning to do a quick review of those steps today when I literally was struck by a bolt of lightning. It came from our co-host Ron Brown, who suggested that I should instead install the printfriendly.com printer extension. Our mutual friend Byron Nate also suggested the browser extension to me. I'll quickly demonstrate the way I've done it for years and how much quicker it is to use the print-friendly extension. Here goes. My old way. 1, select the URL of the web page. 2, do a Control+X to copy and cut that URL. Step 3, type in printfriendly.com, hit enter. 4, paste the URL that was cut in step 2 into the printfriendly.com window and hit enter. Here's my new way. Click the print-friendly extension icon. Thanks a lot, friends Ron and Brian. In the few days since I became aware of the print-friendly extension, it's completely changed how I read, save, and print web pages that are cluttered with ads, sidebars, and so forth. One click takes the clutter away. Golly, life is good. I'll leave the PowerPoint presentation now and show you a host of options you have in printfriendly.com. Now, here's an article that I came across about 3 days ago in a newsletter I receive. I think it seems like it comes every day, at least every other day. It's called Review Geek, and it has a companion newsletter called How to Geek, that's very much the same. And I'm not sure if I can tell the difference between them. Each of the newsletters has from maybe a half dozen to a dozen different articles. Most of the articles don't interest me, but when I find one that does, I click on it and it brings it up. And it's always, of course, an unfriendly view like what you're looking at right now, because you see the title of the article is Wisecam version 3 review, a big leap forward, but it's almost drowned out by the graphics above it and to the right. And in fact, even going down the screen here, there are graphics on the side. So it isn't a pretty picture. And this is why we need something like printfriendly.com. Now, instead of having to go through that whole series of steps, now I'm smarter because I've learned about the printfriendly.npdf.com icon, the extension icon. If you can see my black pointer here in the upper right-hand corner, it's on it right now, and I'm going to do that. Click, and look what's happened. Here I am in the print friendly and PDF open page that has the entire article stripped of all the junk. Wonderful, wonderful. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about options. I have to confess that in the nearly 6 years that I've been using Print Friendly, I've never paid attention to these options at the top, but I think it's worthwhile to do so. It may not be my cup of tea, but it might be some others. Now, the first thing I want to show you regarding these, it has to do with the undo button. It's an editor where you can cut out certain things. For instance, let's say you don't want this guy's picture, you can cut it out. You don't want the rating. You don't want to see the words buy now. Oh, maybe you don't even want the first picture. One click takes it away. Maybe you don't want this picture. It's gone. This picture, it's gone. You know, it's just unbelievable. So anyway, it's a quick and dirty editor. It takes a little getting used to if you want to try to do some precise things. But one of the nice things is everything you've done, you can undo by just clicking on this, and it all comes back. And there is our web page, just exactly as we started. It's been restored. Now, moving to the left, there are two controls right here. This one is for graphics, and this one is for type size or type font. Now, you can have the graphics at full size, and take a look how this looks. I'm going to open it up. Let's say I want to cut it to 50%. By the way, this cuts all the graphics to 50%. And I have choices of 75%, 50%, 25%, or cut it out altogether. I'll leave it at 100% for now. And here is the type size, the font size. It's set at 100%. I can go 3 sizes larger, like to 130%, and all the type is big and bold and easy to read. Or I could cut it down to 70% and have really teensy small type. Again, I'll just reset it to 100%. Now, so we've shown you editing, in which you can delete and restore stuff, plus change text size and graphics size. The next one, moving toward the left, is email. You click on this, and it will email what is on your screen, including if you've edited something, taken something out, whatever. It'll email that to someone, but they won't receive it directly in their email. Their email will show a little paragraph of information with a couple of choices under it. And one is to, if you click on it, you'll get this print-friendly screen, completely virgin. And the other one is you click on it. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but you get the original article that has all the ads and junk and sidebars. Well, so you know what the email does. Now we have PDF and print. This clicking on this one will make a PDF of what you have on the screen. Again, if you've edited it, taken out stuff, changed type font size, graphic size, that's what the PDF will be. And it's the same if you want to print it directly, it will be that way. So those are the options that you have. And I kind of call these quick and dirty options. Now, unfortunately, I have a condition. It's called persnickety perfectionist. I'm sorry, I'm just not a quick and dirty guy. I can't be, and I'll never will be. So my method is I'm going to go back up to the top of this document, put my cursor here, do Control plus A for Mac user. That would be Command plus A. And then I'm going to do a Control plus C, which is to copy it. So now I can go directly to a Microsoft Word document. Here it is. And I can do a paste. And it looks like this. I do the paste. And there it is. Now, this is page 10. I don't know why we need an 11th page. I'll just space it off. But it's taking 10 pages to hold the entire clean article without any extra junk, just the stuff that came along. But are you noticing that there's quite a bit of white space? And I'm one of these guys who likes to have things neat and tidy. Of course, that is except my bedroom and my computer room and several other rooms of my house. But otherwise, on my computer, I like to have things neat and tidy. And I'm going to show you next week how I can use the awesome power of Microsoft Word to edit this. And I'm going to show you a few tips that you may not know about to make editing easy. Because as I said, Microsoft Word is an awesome app that has great powers. Well, that's it for today. I will say toodaloo and thanks for watching.
Well, thank you, Dewey, for doing that. I can tell you, I'm going to keep my screen shared because I'm going to move on into my presentation. But I can tell you that, and I've told everyone this before, I use this program every day. I thank Dewey and Byron for introducing me every day. I think Byron and Dewey, thank you so much, because I use this daily, all the time. This is a great program, but it's for the things that I do. All right, let's move on. I want to talk to you about one little thing that happened. Let's have a look here. Where are we here? Where did I put that? Well, what I'll tell you about it is Google Photos. So many of you this week got the notification that Google Photos will be starting to charge for space for storing your photos. Now, the good news and the bad news is, the good news is it doesn't take place until June the 1st of next year. So between now and June the 1st of next year, if you have any projects, you've got albums, you've got old photographs, you've got them on CDs or DVDs, you really want to get them into Google Photos because you won't be, it's all free storage until June 1st. So do all those projects you have now before June 1st, and then they'll all be in and you don't have to worry about it. After June 1st, you're going to get 15 gigabytes of storage free. Now, for most people, that probably won't be a big deal because you probably won't use that up. It depends how many pictures you take, right? However, and then if you actually do have to have more storage, it's not that expensive. We're talking about maybe $2 a month, $24 a year, for 100 gigabytes, and that's a lot of stuff. In fact, it's $24 a year, but if you prepay for the year, I think it's $18. So we're not talking a lot of money here, and most people, it probably won't affect it. The video today I'm going to show you is how to get your pictures from photo albums into Google Photos quickly. And you might want to do this winter, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And that's what my talk's going to be today. Just let me find it here.
Good afternoon, it's Ron Brown with Silvercom Computer and Technology Club. Today we're going to talk about how to get pictures from your photo album to Google Photos in 13 minutes. Yes, I scanned 153 pictures and uploaded them to Google Photos in just 13 minutes, a world's record. So just watch the video and I'll show you how it's done. The problem is we have a lot of old photo albums. These are the photo albums on my shelf in my bedroom. They haven't been looked at in 40 years. But today I scanned 153 pictures into Google Photos in 13 minutes. How did I do that? Well, first of all, here's the photo album on the left. And I'll show you how I went through that and did this, and they were scanned into Google Photos, which you'll see on the right side, and I labeled the album Family 1984. What to do with old photo albums? Well, what I found, since I hadn't looked at this album for 40 years, was that the color pictures are degrading with time. So it's probably a good move to start digitizing your photo albums. Who wants to see these old pictures? I haven't looked at them in 40 years. What's the point? I have to learn how to use complicated software, Photoshop, all that stuff. I can't be bothered. What if you don't have a scanner? It's going to take a lot of work. Well, I have to remove the photos from the album. Will it damage the pictures? What if there's non-glossy cover over top of them? All these questions make it an undaunting task. Let me show you how easy it is. Now, one of the advantages of digitizing your pictures are you can have some fun. My daughter Jennifer on the left side 40 years ago. 1 week ago on the right side, she's now 40 years old and she's cooking me dinner. Interesting. I did a Facebook post with Gail and I said, who is this? And it was amazing the comments we got. So digitizing your old pictures can be a lot of fun. You can share them with people and get some interesting feedback. Most of us think about taking our pictures from our photo albums and scanning them into another program, then uploading them and transferring them into Google Photos. This pretty much is not the way to do it now. This is very laborious and time-consuming. So this is not the route to take. So the solution, it must be fast. 150 pictures in 13 minutes. Wow. It must be simple. Well, you just watch this video and I'll show you how to do it. And there's no cost. It is free. And again, we're not going to be using a scanner. So what do you need? Well, you need a smartphone. You need Google Photos. You need Photo Scan by Google. And you need a helper. A helper is always a good thing to make this go real fast. See if you can beat my record of 13 minutes. How did I do it? The trick is coming up. So the first thing you have to do is you have to go and get Photo Scan by Google Photos. This is available for Apple and Android. Today I'm going to show you at the Android store how to go about that. If you watch the screen to the left, you'll see that I am now logging onto the Play Store. I'm now searching for photo scan, and you'll see it come up. And there it is, photo scan by Google Photos. Select that, and that's what you want to install. There are many photo scan programs out there, so make sure you get photo scan by Google Photos. Now, installing Google Photo Scan is very easy. Now, it is a separate program or a separate app, but once you install it into Google Photos, it's part of the Google Photos menu. So let me show you how that is. Here I am opening Google Photos. If you look at the three-dot menu, this is the Google Photos app on your phone. You will now see at the bottom, you will now see that Photo Scan was part of the Google Photos menu. Now, once you open Photo Scan, there are only two settings, and this is important to know. I've identified the two settings here. This is the anti-glare feature. We'll talk about this in a minute, and this is the anti-glare feature on, and this is the anti-glare feature off. Why is this important? We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, let me show you a scan that I did, and this happens to be me when I was 1 year old, and that's my mother, and that was 67 years ago. Amazing how black and white film stays so good. So what we're going to show you now is scanning this with Photo Scan and using the anti-glare feature as it is on. So you'll see I'm starting Google Photos, and you'll see in a minute, you'll see the Photo Scan come up, and now we are going to scan this picture. So you hit the center button and start to scan it. You hold your camera over to the top of the picture, and you see what happens is there's 4 dots that come up. You take and move the little ring over the 4 dots, and this is the anti-glare feature, and it prevents, it allows the picture to be taken without any glare. And there you have the picture above here, and that's how you take it with the anti-glare feature on. Now let's look at what happens if the anti-glare feature is off. We're going to open again. We'll open Google Photos. Again, you'll see the Photo Scan menu down here, and we're going to open the Photo Scan feature. Again, we come back to the picture, but notice this time the anti-glare is off. So we just took the picture, and that's it. No 4 dots, just boom, took the picture. And again, here I am, and that's Mom, and the pictures look exactly the same. So why not just take a picture of the photograph? So on the left side here, you'll see a picture was taken with the my Pixel 3 camera, my smartphone, and you'll see I purposely took it at an angle and left it uncropped. This is how, if you took a picture, it could look in your camera. Using the same angle, the same phone and camera, but this is done with Photo Scan. Photo Scan not only does it crop it and it adjusts the exposure, but it also adjusts for any tilting in the camera. So it makes a very accurate picture for you. So the trick, and how did I do this? It's in the settings. You want to turn off glare reduction. The reason for that is it's going to take too long to get those little 4 dots each time you take a picture. You want to turn off the light setting as well in the camera. You want to use available light, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and it's always good to have a helper. Now, if you look at this picture here, you'll see this is Gail, my wife, and that's, of course, Jennifer. And you'll see that when I was going around the house, taking some test shots to get the light, over on the right side, you saw there was too much light coming in through the window. We had to find, you don't need a lot of light, but it should be done through the day and should be done with daylight. And you have to find somewhere in the house, often the kitchen table, where you have some natural light coming in that isn't too strong so you get a glare like there was on the right. And I found a place in our house that was just perfect, and that's how I did the one to the left. Now, here's the helper. Here I am going through the album, 150 pictures, and I was able to use the photo scan non-glare feature as I was taking the pictures. And Gail turned the pages because I had to do it in 13 minutes. And here's some of the pictures that it turned out. Sometimes you're going to need further editing. And the example here is, this is a picture, and you'll see that this is Google Photos, and we can click the auto correct feature, and this you'll see corrected some of the color in the picture, and then we're going to save it. So after you do this process, you may require some further editing. In summary, this video shows you how to quickly get your pictures scanned into Google Photos using PhotoScan. This is Ron Brown with Silvercom Computer and Technology Club. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.
All right. So that's a way you can get your pictures into Google Photos quickly. I might also add, if you're not really concerned about the edges and the formatting of them, you can actually just take a picture. Just turn your flash off on your camera and just take a picture of your, because all these cameras now, all your smartphone cameras have very good quality cameras in them. And so you could actually just take you don't even have to use PhotoScan, just actually take a picture, but realize that you might have to crop or edit it if you care about that. But the issue here is that if you have 20 photo albums with 150 pictures in each album, and you want to get them into Google Photos, it's going to take you a long time to do it, the slow way. You really want to do this and get it over with. At least that's my view on the whole thing, and get them loaded up. Anyway, it is an hour. We've talked for an hour. Let me ask Dewey if you have any final comments before we close.
I don't have any, Ron. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Well, now remember, let's see, what is the next, let's remind everybody that our next meeting will be on December 1st. So that will be a Tuesday morning. Greg, that's at 9:30. Where's Greg? Is Greg gone home? There he is, 9:30, Greg, on Tuesday. All right, and then we'll open it up for everybody, and you can all come and we'll socialize again, and we'll have another meeting, and we'll have some fun.
And I
Bye,
may not
Joanne.
be here because I'll be on the road.
Thanks.
Yes.
Greg.
All
Thanks,
right.
Greg.
Excellent talk. Gordy, can you stay online for a minute after the meeting? Because I would like to have a talk with you.
Sure.
You got a sec? All right. So that's
Good job. Good
that's
job, all.
great. Yeah, that's great. Yep. Excellent. So we'll end the meeting now. I just want to have a brief talk with Gordy about a couple of things, and then and we'll see everyone on December 1st. Okay. All right. Bye-bye now.